Filthy.
Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the Prolific Perspectives Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Polite, and today I have another special guest. I have the founder of Trevor Enterprises, Mr. Robert Brooks. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Brooks. It's a pleasure to have you on, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, Andre. Listen, it's a blessing to be here, sir.
Absolutely. Likewise. I appreciate you. So now with Trevor Enterprises, I kind of know quite a bit about how, you conduct business and how you, the businesses that you run. But can you, for the guests and for the audience of those watching, can you kind of share your path to entrepreneurship and how you got into entrepreneurship and what kind of inspired you to start your businesses?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to commend you on your podcast, your inspiration to many. And I just challenge you and encourage you to continue to do what you do and highlight businesses that you connect with and just, help us all to grow. And so I just commend you on future growth in this. And I just know you'll do well with it. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the people. Basically, entrepreneur is something that's kind of in the bloodline. And so for many years in my early years of business, I actually worked in an insurance company, several insurance companies. And back in the day, there was all these opportunities for entrepreneurials. You had multi-level marketing and things of that nature. And it really, so I tried them all. And so it wasn't until I really found my niche. And so I'm a big fan of Oprah Winfrey. And so when watching her show, Trevor Enterprise was at one time inspired by that because Oprah and the OWN network, or I should say Harpo Studios, was Oprah spelled backwards. And so I said, well, what does my name spell backwards? And that's how Trevor Enterprise came into being. But what Trevor Enterprise is for me is an opportunity where I can, one, service the people in the two areas of business that I love, and that's real estate and insurance. And so for many years, entrepreneur at heart, I started out in the insurance industry. And so I had a captive agency with American Family Insurance for about 20 years, where I served my clients as a personal lines insurance agent, in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm from Kansas City, home of the Chiefs, yay. And so with that, those are the two loves. I love insurance and helping and educate clients on risk management and the ways that they can protect the very business, the very thing that they have built their lives for, the asset in which they cherish. So we talk about how to properly insure that. But then also I have a real estate leg. The insurance is Trevor Enterprise doing business as TIG Insurance Services. And then the real estate side is Trevor Enterprise doing business as TIG Investment Group. And essentially that's the real estate investment leg of that. And so I love real estate. Real estate has been a founding piece of both my business and that of my family's wealth building activities. And so if you're not in real estate in some way, shape, form, or fashion, I think you're cutting yourself and selling yourself short.
Absolutely. No, I agree. It's funny because the guest that I had on last week, Mr. Andrew Ware, he actually has a decor company down here in the Tampa Bay area over by the airport.
Right on.
That day that we recorded the show, he literally, I guess, was on the phone with Valdez Scanting, the wide receiver for the Chiefs. And
yes.
So they're going to be doing I guess the decor work for I forgot what part of his house, like the kitchen or something like that.
Okay.
But I forgot you were from Kansas City, so that's what's up.
Yeah. Mr. Andre Ware is a individual that is well connected down here in Tampa, and just an entrepreneur at heart. And so if that's somebody to idolize, that brother puts the events on CEO experience together in an excellent way. And so I take my hat off to him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to working with him. And it was
right on.
Got,
Yeah.
the CEO experience for giving me
yeah.
that. But yeah, so with your services that you provide with the insurance services, you cover how many different areas do you cover in terms of insurance when you service?
Well, Well, first of all, I appreciate again the opportunity. As I said, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and
Mhm,
so born raised for many years, and so my wife and I um, recently moved down to Tampa, Florida, within the last 2 years, and so for that, I'm licensed in Kansas and Missouri. I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, and then I'm also licensed down here in the state of Florida. And so that's for insurance. And so, but we offer the full line of insurance, property, casualty, the general liability, which is casualty, workers' compensation, commercial auto, builder's risk, and many other assets, D&O, directors and officers, what is called management liability. So if you have a business that you need insurance on, I'm sure we could find you coverage with that. And so I started out down here in Tampa with a company called USI, which is a national brokerage chain,
mhm,
and it is a larger firm that pretty much works with the larger industry businesses, premiums 50,000 and up. And so I've always been a small town guy, if you will, in terms of helping the small biz. I'm a lover of the small business because I do believe that it's the foundation and fabric of the United States, of our country.
right,
And so with that, I felt my needs and my services were best served to serve those individuals on a smaller scale, because oftentimes we just buy insurance and don't really know what we're buying.
right,
So it's really through education that I try to. I don't necessarily think it's doing justice to the client to
mhm,
just quote them. They give me a spec sheet and then I quote it without sharing with them what the coverages are. And then pretty much what we go back to is evaluate the business.
right,
Where are the risk at? And then we try to apply the coverages as needed to the risk that and exposure that exists within the business.
right. I got you. Wow, and it's a lot. It's a lot that entails as well. So,
It is. It is.
mm,
Bless you.
yeah. So,
And, I always have this slogan because I teach. I'm connected with. I've been fortunate enough to partner with the SBDC
mhm,
down here in Florida of Hillsborough County, and so we teach for the small business um, entrepreneur. I would challenge you to go to their website and check out their links and their education page, their events page, because in doing so, I teach an insurance program there that is very much in depth, 2 hours, and it goes through a lot of different scenarios of what to look for in an insurance agent, what coverages are necessary for certain types of businesses that are key to the success of your business. So,
gotcha. And then if I'll get that website so I can post that in
yep,
this show description as well. I was gonna write it down.
absolutely
I can
wonderful.
go and get it later. Okay.
Yep.
So with that, um, how did you? So did you start with the real estate first, or did the investing in the real estate first, or did you start with the insurance first?
Actually, I tell my kids I'm pre-senior, and so I have two adult daughters, and they are the jewel of my eye. And so it's odd that once you get out here and you look back on your experience, I'm a big believer in fellowship before leadership.
I like that.
And so you really have to learn and understand how to follow before you can lead.
Right.
And so, with humble beginnings, I actually started out in the mailroom of an insurance company almost 30 years ago.
Mm,
And so I started out there and worked my way up. I attended University of Missouri, Kansas City, and there was an opportunity that came in shortly after, and I was able to secure a position with one of the top companies within Kansas City,
mhm,
Travelers, and so I became an account executive and kind of worked my way up. But then, even though I was on the corporate side in different capacities, I always still had this burning desire to do my own thing. And so, while I didn't necessarily choose insurance, I say insurance chose me. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I believe that um, an opportunity is when preparation meets or success is when preparation meets opportunity. And so you get an opportunity to succeed, and that's the entryway in. And so that's where I got my beginnings. And so I've kind of expounded from there. But, you know, when you start your agency, you start a scratch agency. So, I mean, it's feast and famine. It's
Right.
all commission.
Right.
And so it's as a derivative of starting the feast and famine, that's when I got into real estate.
Mm,
And so while I was growing my insurance agency, I needed something to supplement, until I grew the agency. And so the next closest thing was real estate. And if
mm,
I actually back up, I'd probably have to say that real estate was my first transactional piece of business, because my wife and I got married early on.
mhm.
And in doing so, we wanted to buy a house. And so I think I was about 22 years old, and I was doing my research on buying a house. And so by the time I interviewed and did the research and so forth, I said, this is something I can do.
Right.
So I went and got licensed. And then after getting licensed, my first home was the one that I sold to myself. Now, the listing agent probably didn't think I did a great job, but trial and error, you certainly
Right.
learn what to do and what not to do.
Right. I tell you,
Yeah.
you said a lot in that response. One of the things that stuck out the most to me was several things, but the one that I want to kind of follow up on is when you said feast or famine.
Yep.
Now I know there's a lot of people out there who want to take the leap into entrepreneurship. I know there's a lot of people who aspire to do it, but they're kind of concerned about going into that, diving into that ocean, taking that jump, as that famous Steve Harvey speech kind of spoke
Absolutely.
about. So I had to take that jump. You
Yep.
took that jump. So how would you this is a question I got about a week or two ago on another call, another meeting, and the person asked me, how did I know when it was time to go, or how did I have the confidence to take the leap and to take the jump? And I recall the answer I gave her, but for you and for those listening, because I feel like everybody can learn something from other people's journeys. So for you,
Absolutely.
what was the thing that gave you the confidence to take the leap? And then what would be your advice to those who are on the fence or who may be nervous about taking that leap? What would you advise them to encourage them to take the leap?
Well, and Andre, I thank you for that question, because I think at the core of who every entrepreneur is, they have to ask themselves the why question,
Mm,
and what's your why?
right.
And my why was my family. I grew up a single parent household. I love my mom. She was my shero, God rest her soul. But she did it all single family household, all by herself, and I saw her struggle. And so I just chose to do different, desired to do differently. And so as I began the career on corporate America, I saw the struggles within the corporation, the disenfranchisement, the unfairness that went on in terms of promotions and so forth. And so me being the individual that I am, I just had, internally, I said there had to be a better way.
Right.
And I look at it now, hindsight 2020, it has its pluses and its minuses, but in the end, you have to determine what are your motives, what are your goals, what are your desires, and can you achieve that in corporate America? And if you can, so be it. Entrepreneur is not for everybody, but if you're that spirited person and you want to be out there to where there are no limits to what you can do, you work the hardest for yourself, I believe.
Right.
And I just think at some point you evaluate where you are in life. For me, that was actually at a point where excuse me, when I was at at the corporation level, I reached a level that I could go in that department. And so I looked at it and said, okay, where else would I be able to go?
Right.
And there was really nowhere to go other than my boss's job, and she wasn't leaving.
Mm,
And so constantly seeking out the opportunity, that was a fork in the road that I had to take. And I believe I was 28 or 29 years old when I took that leap of faith.
mm,
Now, mind you, um, Andre, it wasn't an easy choice. I had a wife. Actually, at 29, I had a wife and a child. And so in doing so, I was not carrying just myself out there,
right.
but I was carrying my wife, my child, and my family out there with me. And so in making this decision, I couldn't do it without considering them. But then also the reason why I did it is because I was considering them. And so obviously there's preparation in there. You know, we prepared for about a year. My wife and I told her, I said, we're going to transition into that, which means we internally cut back on some things. We looked at our internal budget. We saw what we absolutely needed to have. We saved in that process. And then when the right opportunity came along that could help us with, like some subsidy base while I'm growing my business along with the savings, it met. And it's so ironic because my wife is an entrepreneur. And so she worked a beautiful, what I call a beautiful corporate job when we got married.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh, babe, do you know where you could go with this job? Oh my God, you could be management." And she came to me, she said, "That's not what I want."
Mhm.
And after we got married, she quit. And she's a hairstylist. She owns a beauty salon. She owned a beauty salon for 30 years.
Mhm.
But in that process, while I was working corporate America, she took the leap of faith. And I used to envy that because she was her own boss. And
Right.
so when it came my time, I said, in a partnership such as a marriage, I said, sweetheart, listen, we gave you your opportunity. Now's my opportunity.
Mhm.
And so we as a couple supported one another. So you had to have the support of your family.
Right.
But I think you take a hard look at what your goals are and your aspirations, and you evaluate good, bad, or indifferent, which road suits you best. I have friends of mine, they're in corporate America and they're doing well, but they don't have the freedoms that I have. They don't have the flexibility that I have. And that for me, the value of my time outweighs everything. So I took the Steve Harvey leap of faith. One, I say this too, because I'm a man of faith,
Right.
and faith without works is dead. And so I'm a believer that the Lord gave me discerning spirit to know when to do so. And when I did, we just walked out. There's a biblical saying, story, Peter. And I say to you this, and I don't mean to take this in this direction, but that's just who I am, is Peter got outside of the boat. There was 11 other disciples that chose to stay in the boat of comfort.
Mhm.
In life, sometimes we get comfortable, and that's our worst enemy, is being comfortable. In fact, our opportunities roll right past us because we stay in a boat of comfort.
Mhm.
But yet and still, he chose to get out of the boat. The miracle is that he walked on the water, some say.
Mhm.
And I say the miracle is that he got out of the boat.
Hmm. I like that. No, that's powerful, man. That's very powerful. And it's so
Yes, sir.
crazy because there are so many similarities, I feel like, in every entrepreneur's journey. And the one
Hmm.
that you mentioned several things that I actually went through, preparing myself for mine. And I remember the conversation I had with my wife when I asked her, for her blessings, because I told her
Yeah.
it's not gonna be easy and it's not
Yep.
gonna be something that I feel like is gonna happen overnight. But if you have faith in me, I got faith in myself, and I'm gonna give it everything I got to make it happen. And it's
Yes,
like
sir.
I bet on me, and I thought about if there's anybody in the world who I could bet on that I know I could trust is gonna give it their all, it's gonna be me. And
Yes,
and
sir.
I wholeheartedly resonate with that story because that's what it took. I mean, people for me, I had a really good job making, considerable amount of money, for corporate America, more
Yep.
than most people who got degrees and et cetera, which you didn't need a degree to do that job, but it just wasn't enough. And I think the thing that inspired me and what gave me and fueled my why was time. You said that
Yep.
time was something it's indispensable, and it is most
Hmm.
our most valuable resource, bar none. Not money, not any of that. It's time. And so for me, the time that I wanted for myself, the time I wanted with my family, and the time I wanted to work on my dreams meant a lot more to me than the time I could spend driving a truck, making however much I was making an hour a week. It didn't equate to the time. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's what fueled me to take that leap and say, you know what, I'm going to bet on me and I'm going to go all out, against all odds and make it happen. So it was tough,
Yeah.
but, I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
seeing, what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
the fruits of the labor.
Time is the one, Andre, the time is one of the commodities that you just don't get back. If you
No,
lose money in the
no,
stock market,
you did.
the hopes is, you bet it right, you can gain it back,
Yep.
you can lose and gain weight, get it and gain it back, but time is one thing that we don't get back. And so, my youngest told me at one point in time, she was among her friends, and they were telling their stories of how their mom and dad, they wanted them at certain events, and how they were, I guess, how their lives was impacted by that not being the case.
Mhm.
And she thought about it, and she said, but that wasn't my story, Dad. You know, everything that I had, you were there, you or mommy were there to support me.
Right.
Well, that was only through the entrepreneurial avenue that we was able to take off when we wanted to. Now, it's not easy, like you said, because it was feast and famine. But you know, you get you sacrifice. You know, what is success without sacrifice?
Right.
What is success without somebody to share it with? That's an old Billy D saying.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
yeah,
I agree. Yeah, that's what's
yeah.
up, man. It really it's just so I can't wait to like in another 5 shows do like a highlight. I'm gonna do a highlight show and hire somebody to kind of edit it up. But there is like the one is like 2 or 3, I feel like staples in every single guest responses or answers when I ask some of those questions. And it's
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
faith, the
Hmm.
desire, the work ethic, and just having a
Hmm.
why. Like those are
Yeah,
almost unanimous in every single interview. And then the other one that is, I felt like that resonates too, and hopefully for the listeners and the people who listen to these shows, is that take what you get or take what you're experiencing or the experience you're getting from corporate America and figure out a way to implement that into something that you can add and create value with a product or a service. And the odds of you being successful, in your own business is exponentially higher because now you have all the experience that you had when you were working for someone else, but you can take that and apply that to work for yourself and then provide a service or a product for somebody that can benefit from it. And then that's what
absolutely.
the wings do.
Absolutely. And I think that's the American way of how many small business companies, have gotten started. And I say this is that, I tell my kids a few things. Perspective is key.
Mm,
Okay. But then also master failure
mm,
in terms of being willing to fail enough to get it right.
right,
Don't be afraid of failure.
right,
Okay. But then master what it is that you do and learn what you do and throw it all into it. And if you bet on you, I won't work harder for anybody else but myself. And so I've seen my time put in. I had the personality and the work ethic on corporate America to where when they was telling me, oh, I had to be there at a certain time and so forth, I said, but I don't understand at the end of the day, if the work is done,
right,
then that's what's important.
right.
And so at the end of the day, the work has to get done. And so there were times where, I went in at 10 or 12 because I was wanting to be at my daughter's volleyball game or soccer game or what have you.
Mhm.
But then guess what? I was at the office till 10 at night,
Right, right.
so trade-offs, but you get to make those trade-offs,
Absolutely.
man. And if you just have fun along the journey, insurance has provided a really good life for my family. And real estate is providing the generational wealth that
Mm.
I will pass along to my kids.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And that's what my ultimate goal is to create that
Yeah.
legacy and that generational wealth. And for me, I teach my sons, and I've been doing it since they were in like kindergarten, I think, preschool, kindergarten, where they were the age where they can actually conceptualize what I was saying. But I've always told them that true freedom is when you have the ability to support yourself and to be able to support your family and to be able to do it by the means of your hands and by the
Yep.
ways of your mind or whatever that you create. And you can do that without ever having to wait for anybody to cut you a check or write you a check or swipe on anybody else's time clock. When you can
Yep.
do that, that's when
Yep.
you really have true freedom, because then you can go
Yep.
anywhere you want, anytime you want, say what you want, do what you want, and nobody has leverage or power over you to censor you or
Absolutely.
tell you no to do anything that you
Absolutely.
want. I said, there's not a lot of people in the world who have that kind of freedom. You guys have the
Absolutely.
bluept. So, take
It's
advantage.
how they say the sky is the limit,
Right.
and I didn't really stop at insurance. Actually, insurance provided the foundation for real estate.
Mm,
Insurance is a residual business, so we built it, we got residuals going, we put it on autopilot, then we went out and started investing in real estate, and we had upwards of 40 rental properties and was
mm,
buying and selling and flipping. And then, when that was on autopilot, my wife had a beauty salon with a couple locations. And when that was on autopilot, then we went and bought a health food store up in the Northland of Kansas City
mm.
with an SBA. So we literally had, what's that, four or
Wow.
five businesses rolling at one time. And that's a lot. I
Right.
used to go on vacation and it'd take me, 3 days to unwind just to
Right.
know that I'm on vacation.
Right. Right.
And when
Right.
I come back to my life, I'm like, oh my God, is this my life?
Right.
But at the same token, We were the creators and the originators and control, of all of that. And so, but we also had people in place to where when we need to step away, we could step away.
I love it. I love it. Now,
Yep.
the real estate aspect. So how, like, what was your process when you first started to use real estate as a vehicle, as you know, as a vehicle to create wealth with? Like, how did you start? Did it start with like one rental property, residential? Did you start with a duplex, triplex, quadplex? Like, what was your process for the beginning of your real estate investor career?
As I've grown in the business, obviously hindsight's 2020, and so I tell a lot of the earlier investors that seek knowledge from me. As I said, if my first house was my first investment in real estate.
Gotcha.
I knew from a child, young man, that I wanted to invest in real estate, and here's why. My mom worked at AT&T for 35 years,
Mm-hmm.
and she, like I said, she was a single mom. And I'd see her go to work from 6 to 6. She would do overtime. She'd go in early. We lived in the inner city of Kansas City, and she had a vehicle, but she'd get on the bus because it was cheaper, and she'd ride, the bus to work, the metro as we would call it, get up early, and she'd go in and she'd stay late because she put us through private school. I went from private school from first grade all the way up to 12th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a sacrifice, because she said, the one thing I can give you is education.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can give you an education, then hopefully, there's an opportunity for you to kind of build a foundation and grow from there,
Right.
which I'm grateful. But the sacrifice that she had was, I seen her work from, 6 to 6, and she never was a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And so we rented and we rented and we rented. And I didn't know at the time, when stuff was kind of wore down and broke down, we had the slum landlord. I said, I go to my mom, I said, Mom, we need to fix this. And that's the landlord's deal.
Right.
So I knew when we got married, I wanted to own. And so as I did real estate, my first house was just that. I told you I was the realtor on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I began the insurance, I knew I wanted to own real estate. And so I started hanging around with the organization, investment organizations, again, circling yourself around where you want to go.
Right.
My grandmother would always say, dress the part.
Right.
And so I say, as an entrepreneur, because sometimes it's entrepreneur, but entrepreneur, excuse me, for those that, if that offends.
Gotcha.
But I I say you have to not only dress the part, but you have to walk the part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have to be willing to take the steps.
Right.
And so to answer your question, it was a duplex. And so I would challenge every investor as a first time, if they're going to buy their first house, buy a duplex.
Right.
3% down, that's the cheapest way to buy your first investment property,
Right.
is a duplex or a triplex,
Right.
or a fourplex. You can live in one of the units and rent out the other three, and you having assistance with that mortgage, and that builds wealth faster than you would imagine.
Absolutely.
And so I started there, and then I wanted to flip houses or invest in houses, and so I met a gentleman, and he showed me the ropes, one time, one house at a time, and all he had to do is show me a couple times, and I was off and running, and
Mm.
I one house, two house, three house, four, and I kept buying, kept renovating, kept rehabbing, renting out, and I'd go out as soon as I get one job done, I go out and do it again,
Mm.
because that was what supplemented for the first 7 years of me in agency, my income, until my income got up and to the level where the agency itself could support the family.
Wow, that's what's up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you,
Right
you
on.
use the burn method all the way through, huh?
Yes. Right. Oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
Listen. Right.
Yep, yes, sir. That's what's up. So now with the properties, did you stop at like the duplexes and the triplexes, or did you go up even further, like into the commercial level?
It's always been, well, first of all, it's always been a dream of mine to build a house,
Mm.
I shouldn't say to build a house, but to become a builder. And so the majority of mines were single family residents. Now, within that portfolio of real estate, I did have probably 3 units one was a fourplex and one was a sixplex that I gutted down to the studs. And mind you, I was an HGTV back then. It was This Old House. I'm dating myself when I say that, but those that are my age would know what This Old House is. But I'd watch the renovation shows, constantly, constantly. And every time there was a project going on, that's what I want to do. Lo and behold, not to uh, have full understanding of it, on my dad's side, that's what my grandfather did a lot of.
Mhm.
He taught them how to fix stuff around the house, how to repair a floor, and how my auntie, who's 75 plus years old, she's tearing the floor out in her living room and redoing the living room floor. I mean, down to the studs
Mm.
and laying underlayment and the whole nine. And so I think it's in the bloodline. But we had mostly single families, but we had a couple of the larger units. But my only commercial was the office building for which we housed my business and then that of my wife's.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Okay. That's what's up. That's
yeah,
powerful. That's powerful.
yeah,
How long
yeah.
did it take for you to get in terms of the process? I know it was a process where they kind of both helped fuel each other, or help,
Mm-hmm.
uh, pretty much hold each other's hands on the way of growth.
Mm-hmm.
But how
Mm-hmm.
long did it take for you to realize in your journey that you're like, okay, we're on our way, and then you got to the point where you actually saw that you could actualize the true freedom and the financial freedom and the legacy and the wealth building that you set out to achieve?
Well, again, as I started in agency, that was the founding. I left corporate America and started the agency. And I tell you, even in the years that I worked there, I quit in my mind in 3 years. I quit at 7 years. I quit at 10 years because that in your mind,
Right.
I'm
Right.
done. I'm letting
Right.
you. And so, but it was probably about a little bit after year 10, because it wasn't until I had a few properties, 1 through 7 of my insurance career that I had started building, but I didn't really kick it off till I got my office building. And when I got the office building, we basically gutted it out and renovated it, had a big open house that just kind of set the stage and we were off and running.
That's what's
And
up.
so it was almost as if nothing could stop me now. And then we built our dream home, for which I took a picture of a house that I insured, and it was in Kansas City. It was in Lakewood Ranch, kind of like Lakewood Ranch down here in Florida.
Mhm.
And it was one of these pinnacle houses. And then I took a picture. Now, at this time, I'm really dating myself. It was a Polaroid. And so I put that Polaroid right up on my desk in bird's eye view every day so that I can say, okay, this is what I'm working towards for that of my family. And in
Mm.
2004, we built that house. And it was
Wow.
so funny. I had looked at it so long when I went to find a plan, because it wasn't a builder's plan. It was a plan that I found.
Mhm.
It was almost identical to that house that had been ingrained into my brain for so long.
That's powerful. And
Yeah.
you speaking on something that I'm very much a fan of. And are you familiar with vision boards by any chance?
Oh man, come on, man.
And so what
Vision board makes it come alive.
there you go. So you just set the vision board up and had that thing up there and programming the subconscious mind. And it's nuts because I promise I did the same exact thing before I bought my first house. And it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I'll never forget. I went house
Mhm.
hunting. I think it was in 2007. I was 27. And a friend of mine he was a realtor and I wanted to
Mhm.
get a house. So at the time, I had just went through a breakup with the girl that I was seeing at the time. We was living together in a townhome, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to rent no more. I'm gonna go ahead and buy a house. And so
Mhm.
I went ahead and started the journey. And I remember him taking me to see houses, and we went. And I think the first one he took me to, I fell in love with. I was like, man, you wasting your time bringing me to any other house. I don't want to see anything else. I want this one.
Right.
He's like, I get it.
Right.
But you got to
Right.
go see a few more because we don't know, how everything's going to unfold. I said,
Yep.
well, we can go see them, but I'm just telling you right now, this is the only one I'm really interested in. So we
Yep.
went.
Yep.
Long story short, man, I kept that. I'm not sure what you call the brochure, but the sheet that we got from the
Uh-huh. Info
had
sheet.
a
Yep.
picture of the house and it had the specs, it had everything. And I
Yep.
promise every
Listing sheet. Yep.
single day, the listing sheet, every
Mhm.
single day before I went to work, when I came home from work, I would look at it and say, this is my house. I'm going to have this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. They took my offer and the rest is history, but it was just amazing because I really was convinced that I'm going to own this house. And it was just
Yeah,
crazy because every single day I did the same exact thing. And then to make it manifest, I think a lot of us don't realize the power, and I feel like in writing goals, writing down goals, and also
absolutely.
the vision board, because it's a very powerful, mysterious, I think way the world works.
You know, the word says that, the Lord will bless a plan. It says, write it down, make it plain.
Mm,
And so if we fail to write it down, we fail to when we write it down, we're putting it into the atmosphere
absolutely.
in order to happen. And so what you spoke of, our backgrounds parallel so greatly because I had this plan sheet that I had downloaded off the internet. And so I went to what at the time Kinko's. I ordered it at Kinko's, and I ordered several copies, and I had it blown up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had it, on the table at home and so forth. So by the time I actually went to build the house, I was showing it. I was praying over it and showing it. And so the lot in the neighborhood that I wanted to build my first house,
Mm-hmm.
at the time, and this is a true story, and I was let's see here, probably about 10 years maybe into the business. She said, "Oh, we need $5,000 down on the deposit for the lot."
Uh-huh.
Well, at the time, between holding all my money was holding down the office, holding down the rental property. I didn't have the extra $5,000 just to give her to put the deposit down.
Gotcha.
And so I literally kept going by there and I said, "Hey," her name was Sandy. "Sandy, is a lot sold on lot number 3 sold?" And she says, "No." I said, "Well, that's because it's mine. It won't sell." So at night I'd go by there and I'd pray over it, man. I'd take my girls and we pray over it and so forth. And so I kept calling her and she said, "Mr. Brooks, what do you need to do to get this lot?" And I said, "Well, I don't have the 5,000." I said, "But I could come up with 1,000 if you just give me an opportunity and then give me 100 days or 90 days to get under contract."
Right.
She says, "Have me $1,000 by the end of the day and I'll do it." Okay. I
Wow.
literally took her a credit card convenience check for $1,000.
I know that's right. Wow.
Right. And so, that was on a credit card, bro.
Right, right, right.
So
That's what's up.
again, that's where God would plant a seed in you, and we want to know, and I'm not trying to profess to tell people to be irresponsible.
Mhm.
Okay. But some things requires a leap of faith. And when you take that leap of faith, he'll meet you right there. And so, in many times in my life, that's just how it's happened. And so then I began, once I put that down, I said, "Okay, Lord, you know, now let's go over strategy." I believe that, God is strategic. And so as entrepreneurs, the best thing you can have is one, support; two, a spiritual mindset to know that you're not out here alone; but three, strategy. Okay, strategy. You got to have a strategic plan
Mhm.
in and around, because what they call that Allstate commercial, mayhem is gonna be out there.
Oh yeah.
And so you have to
Everywhere you
have a
turn
strategic
too.
plan around it. Yeah, yeah.
Everywhere you
And if
turn.
you're not one that can respond to that, you're gonna struggle.
Right. It's not for the weak hearted, for sure.
It's not for the fainted heart, Doc. It's not. No,
Nah, you
sir.
got to be
No,
built a
sir.
certain way to
Yeah.
live that life, man. And that's
Yes,
real.
sir. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
But that house we built, and we lived in that house for 15 years. That's where I raised my kids.
Wow. That's what's
Hmm.
up. That's what's up.
Yeah. Right
I
on.
tell you,
Right on.
we're gonna have to do this again because this has been a very powerful interview, man. It's a lot of
Bless you.
backstory that I learned, about your journey and your path, and it's just so crazy. I feel like the synchronicity in so many different people who we all from different parts of the world or different parts of the states, different parts of the
Yeah.
country, but
Yeah.
the vision, I feel like the hustle, the mentality, it remains the same. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that you have to, really put forth that effort to create what is
Yeah.
entrepreneurship mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Tenacity, I always say this, and I used to volunteer at my church. And so, and some say youth director, some say youth pastor, what have you. But I used to share with my kids is 4 P's, and I hope I get this right, that you always have to keep in mind as you navigate through life. One is perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is the glass half empty or half full? How
Yep.
you see life will be how you live life. Perspective. Okay. It can be good or it can be bad. Okay. Provision. the word has already promised you that he will provide.
Right.
Okay. So provision has already been there. So you get right perspective, you have understanding of what provision is, then posture. Posture is where you stand. What's your humility look like? What's your stand look like? Who are you? What are your principles? What are your character about yourself? What does that look like? Okay. And once you understand perspective, because perspective is view.
Right.
Okay. And I always say, do you want vision or do you want sight or vision?
Right. I'm taking
Okay. There's a difference. Okay. So perspective, provision, posture. And when you can understand those three, you'll walk into the power that's unbelievable. Okay. Because it's the power that allows you to move things. It's a power that allows you to do things. And God has given us right perspective. He's given us his provision. He gives you, a humility piece about you. He wants you to recognize your posture. Are you humble, grateful? Are you appreciative of what people do? My grandmother used to say, thank you 1,000 times, because nobody has to do nothing for you.
I know that.
Okay. And then you'll walk into the power that's unbelievable.
I tell you what, at that, I don't think I want to go no further. That's it. Listen, that's a mic drop, man. Look,
right on. Bless you, man.
listen,
Bless
I'm
you,
gonna
God.
clip that, and that's gonna be like going forward, either the intro or the outro of the show, because you said perspectives. I don't know how many times, and the name of the show is Prolific Perspectives, and I'm just like, I'm sitting there like,
Oh,
wait,
come on now. Right on. There you
soundbite
go.
out of this.
Prolific Perspective Podcast.
Yes,
See what I'm
sir.
saying?
Yes,
Right.
sir. Yes,
Yeah, right
sir.
on.
The perspectives at its finest. I
At
appreciate
its
it, Mr.
finest.
Brooks,
Yes,
man.
sir.
For
I
real.
listen, I value the work that you do. I say to those businesses out there, Andre has a sincere heart to help small business. He helped me with my insurance services when I navigated away from corporate America down here in Tampa, and decided again to go on my own in commercial lines area. And so I thank you for that. And so, just keep doing for others what you want done for you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man. And that's
Right
what
on.
I do it for. I would do this work all day, every day, because it's not work, and I love it.
Right
It's from
on.
the heart, it's passion, and I love to see others win. I don't have to be
Right
Michael
on.
Jordan. I just want to be on the team with the ring. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes, sir. Yes,
that's how
sir.
I look
Yes,
at it.
sir.
But I
Yes,
definitely
sir.
appreciate you, Mr. Brooks. And
Bless you.
in closing, what last I don't know, last prolific perspective would you like to drop on the way out, or just anything you want to share with the audience in terms of, I've definitely dropped the links to your website and how people can, contact you for your services as well. But anything you want to leave with the people, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you again for the opportunity to share. Every entrepreneur has his story, and whatever your story is, share it, live it, breathe it, and walk it out. And so find out what you're passionate about and find out how it can impact another's life. In this season, we get one life. And so there's a born date and there's a death date, but it's the dash in between that makes all the difference. And so make your dash mean something, impact those around you. If you learn something, share it. If you have something, give it. If you know something, encourage another person, and I think, the farmers at it, no seed, no harvest. Okay. Become a farmer about what you do. Always planting seeds, and there'll always be a harvest for you to have.
I love it. Facts.
Right on.
And one
Right
last
on.
tidbit I'm gonna share what that goes with that is that I heard the quote. I can't remember where I heard it from, but they say the two most important days of a person's life is the day they were born and the day they figure out why. And so the day that you figure out the intention behind that why is the day that you can fill in that dash, the best that you can. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
it, Brooks, for sure.
Absolutely.
We definitely have to do it again, man, for sure.
Yes, sir. Now, if I can help anybody on the commercial insurance side, feel free, and on the real estate investing side, feel free, and we'll touch base. And I tell everybody that I'll share everything that I know. I'm not one to hold back. If I can help you and share it, then we will. So
absolutely. And I'm a testament to that. I definitely appreciate
all
you,
right.
all the things you share with me as well.
Right on.
The words, the mentorship, everything. It means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you for the platform.
Absolutely. It's an honor and a pleasure, and we definitely have
Yes,
to
sir.
do it again. So
Okay. All right.
that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Prolific Perspective podcast. I want to give another thank you to Mr. Brooks coming through, and also please hit the like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll see you next week with another new episode. We out, fam. Peace.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Right on, right on.